guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Bree if you are new here, and in today's video I just want to do a shop my stash, hang out, do some makeup, chat about life, all that good stuff. So if you want to hang out, do some makeup, chat, then just keep on watching. Alright, so as per usual with all of my shop my stashes, I'm not going to be talking about the makeup like at all, but I will have everything listed and linked down below for you guys in case you're curious as to what product that I'm using or something like that. This shop my stash is going to be a little bit more low-key. Usually I have like a look planned and like, you know, an idea of what it is that I mean I do have an idea of what it is that I'm talking about, but usually I'll have like a whole look planned out, and I realized last night that I did not. But you know, I kind of just feel like doing like a low-key, just like kind of neutral-ish makeup. Also, as a side note, all this hurts real bad. Real bad. I just figured I'd get on here, chat about life, give a little life update, a little health update, a little mental health update maybe, I don't know. We'll see where the video takes us. I know what am I filming for? July? I'm filming for July. It's the last day of June. Of course I'm filming for July. Why did I even have to think about that? It's like literally July is tomorrow. Anyways, in the past couple months, I had like very structured, very specific videos in which, like, especially shop my stash videos, and you know, which I was talking about like EDS or OCD or like, and they're like the factual side, or you know, in June I had my like no buy update, so much more structured. Today is not nearly as structured. I'm just gonna fucking talk, just to talk, you know, because sometimes you need that like just talking to the camera therapy. Sometimes it can really help. So I'll link any relevant videos up in the eye and down below. But as some of you guys may or may not know, a couple months ago I was diagnosed with POTS, as well as, you know, also having EDS, and they're very common comorbidities. Like, it was something that, you know, even when I was originally getting diagnosed with EDS, like my geneticist was like, hey, you should probably go get tested for this, because like you kind of fit the criteria, and you know, it's something you should keep an eye on. And just, you know, quick rundown on it, but basically POTS, it stands for postural orthostatic tachycardia syndrome. To like break it down in the most simplest way possible, everybody, no matter their health conditions or lack of health conditions or whatever, everybody, when they stand up, about a liter of their blood goes down into your legs, because fucking gravity, right? Most people, when that happens, your autonomic nervous system, so like your, you know, basically the thing that just makes everything function like fucking normal, will kick in, and pretty much immediately, chill. But yeah, your autonomic nervous system will kick in, and pretty much immediately will return your blood flow back to how it's supposed to be, preventing, you know, all of your blood from staying in your legs, blood pooling, and it not being in the brain, right? Yeah, mine doesn't do that. Basically, when I stand up, all of the blood pools in my legs, and then it has a very, very hard time, well, like my autonomic nervous system just doesn't know to just like bring it back up, and so my heart will kick into overdrive and start pumping a lot faster to get the blood back where it needs to be and into the brain. It's a big reason why a lot of people with POTS faint, because the blood leaves the brain and then it has a hard time getting back to where it needs to be. So I am lucky in the sense that I am not fainty from it, but it's there. It does do the thing. And another little, you know, piece of context for your information, I was on birth control for like fucking, I don't even know, 12 years, something like that. Some insane amount of time. Which honestly, thank fucking God, because I was a reckless youth, and well, frankly, I don't like children, so I mean, it was a blessing back then, because I was definitely far too reckless to have used like non-hormonal birth control. So it was a good thing back then. And it still, for millions and probably billions of people out there, it's a great thing. It's a great fucking resource to have, obviously. It just kind of hit a point in 2000. Well, it really started in 2008. 2018 maybe or so. It wasn't really vibing with my body anymore. Like, I had been on it, I think, for maybe just too long, and my body was just like, yo, like, we're not chill anymore. It got to a point where, like, every time I would stop taking the pill, like, and I would have, like, the, you know, the break, like, the drop in artificial hormones would make my, like, I would have a ton of anxiety, ton of different symptoms, and then, like, after the week was up and it was time to start a new pack, I would get, like, insanely nauseous. And yeah, no, it was not fun. So I basically, like, I sat down with my husband and I was just like, look, like, and he even agreed with me. He's like, I don't know how much longer you can do this, dude. Like, it's not chill. And so I made the decision to get off of birth control. It took about 3-ish years for my body to kind of figure out how to be some semblance of normal. I mean, not really, but some version of normal. And now it's, like, very cyclical. But with that, I am still, like, insanely sensitive to, like, hormonal fluctuations, which, if you have a uterus, you understand that that's, like, there's a cycle, right? You know, like, things rise and they fall, and it's an up and down, and every month it's fucking hell. The annoying part is it's not the same every month. Like, there's certain things that are very much the same every month, but there's also a lot of things that, like, month to month will be different. Like, for example, progesterone, which is released around the time of ovulation, is also linked to the release of a chemical called relaxin, which is used, most, like, your body uses during pregnancy. Like, it uses it in the first and the last trimester of pregnancy. It literally is the name relaxin. It relaxes your body to kind of prepare your body to grow, and you prepare your body for exit. Yeah, fun thing about that is when you're already got, like, some pretty relaxed joints, and then your body's like, relaxing, and then things just start falling apart. So some months I'll just be, like, super noodly and loose, and that will have its own set of, like, pain and issue. And then some months I'll just, like, have a bunch of GI issues. It's irrelevant. Regardless, I've now given you the context for the story that is to come. Let me finish up that context really quick. Basically, from, like, ovulation until period, which is, like, it's, you know, a cycle is, like, an average 4 weeks, and there's 2 weeks between ovulation and period. So unfortunately, I get about 2 good weeks a month. It's really cool. It's great. Like, when you break that down, I get 6 months out of a year that's good. Like, what the fuck is that shit, you know? Anyways, but yeah, I get basically from ovulation to period, rough go. Not the greatest. Not a fun time. That's the time I'm currently in. So now that I've given you the context to the story that I'm about to tell, I'm gonna jump off really quick, toss on a wing, and then I'll be right back. Where this all begins, right? For the longest time, I wore a Fitbit. Basically, around the time that I first got evaluated for POTS and was kind of just, like, shot down on it, I ended up picking up a Fitbit to kind of just track my heart rate and just make sure that everything was good. Because I kind of pretty much just told myself, like, look, I'm probably going to be basically the one in charge of this. Like, I'm gonna have to just kind of accommodate myself and figure it out on my own. And so I got that Fitbit, and I've worn it in videos. I've talked about it before. I don't wear it in every video because sometimes it clashes with the vibe, but whatever. You know what I mean. Last Friday actually, I filmed a video. All was good, all was great. And I had already been off the day before that as well. Had filmed a video that day, you know, had done a little bit of housework, had kind of just, you know, I was just doing stuff, right? It wasn't really anything like too crazy, but I was, you know, mildly active. Not nearly as active as I usually am at like work, but mildly active. On Friday, after I filmed that video, and everything was fine through that, I was cleaning this room actually. I was like putting away all my makeup and my filming stuff and everything like that. And as I was kind of finishing up cleaning this room, I was like, God, I feel just like disgusting. Like, not sick. Like, I didn't feel sick. I just felt bleh. Like, is the only way that I could describe it. What's this fucking hair stuck to my lip? Yeah, just like, I felt really meh. Like, very just kind of tired and just gross. I just felt icky is like the way that I would be able to describe it. And I was like, God, why do I feel so just like icky? And I knew in my soul that I have felt that way before in the past. And the times that I had felt that way in the past, I was experiencing like a POTS flare. I was like, okay, that's probably what it is. I checked my Fitbit app. Because obviously when I look at the Fitbit when it's just on my wrist, it's just telling me what my current heart rate is. Whereas if I haven't been paying attention to it, I can look at the app and it would give me like a little chart with like all the little jumps and the falls and the, you know, all that kind of stuff. And it does like a every 5-minute average or something like that. So I looked at my Fitbit, and now mind you, at this point it was probably like maybe 2:30, 3 o'clock-ish, I would say, is what time it was. So I looked at the Fitbit app, again, as I've said 15 million times now, and I had seen that at about 9 a.m., which would be, I would guess, probably when I got up and I was like in the bathroom, like brushing my teeth, doing my skincare, you know, that kind of stuff. Like I was up and standing in the bathroom. And then again at noon, which really threw me because I was like at noon I was sitting down. I overdid that a little bit. But I was like at noon was, you know, when I would be sitting down to film. And I know that like me sitting here talking does raise my heart rate just a little bit. Especially when I'm talking a ton. I saw that at about 9:30 and then again at about noon, my heart rate had jumped up to 160. It went up to 160 and then immediately fell back down. Again, 5-minute averages, so in my mind I was like, I don't know how long that like held for. And I was like, that's kind of weird because I didn't notice it, but at the same time in my mind I was like, okay, maybe like, you know, a little bit of brain fog, whatever. Maybe I just like, I don't remember feeling shitty. It's possible that I was just like so focused on whatever I was doing that I just like didn't know, I don't remember feeling shitty. But also I just want to point out that in all of my time of consciously, like I've had POTS for a very long time, especially in hindsight. Like I can think back to other things that occurred in my life that I'm like, oh, that was POTS. But like in all of my time that I have consciously had POTS, like known that I had POTS and have had a Fitbit, the highest I have ever seen my heart rate go was, I believe, 155. And I felt that fucker. Like I felt that. And it didn't last for a very long time, but I felt it for fucking sure. And so I was like, that's a little weird. But again, you know, my period's coming, my hormones are all over the place. Like I already know that I am, like my body gets really fucking stupid when that happens. And it's always just a guessing game of what's gonna happen this month, you know, with the different things that could go wrong. So I was like, okay, well, maybe that's that. I'm just gonna chill out for the rest of the day. I'm already pretty tired. Like, I'm just gonna chill. You know, that's kind of what I decided I was gonna do. You know, whatever I didn't get done that day, just wouldn't get done. It's not that big of a deal. And I also kind of told myself too, like, you know, if I lay down for a couple hours and then I get up and then I feel better, then I'll just continue on with my day. So I gather my supplies. I grab a bottle of water, I grab some salty snacks, I grab my phone, I grab, you know, whatever else I need, and I take myself out to the living room, because in the living room we have a a pull-out couch that honestly stays pulled out because of a multitude of reasons, but also because my computer, which I play my video games on, is hooked up to the TV, and I have learned that it's a lot more comfortable for my body to be able to like lay on the couch bed and like with my back up against the backrest, but like be able to stretch out my legs completely and play my game that way. And also the couch bed is a lot more stiff, even with a mattress topper on it. It's a lot more stiff than our bed, and sometimes that's exactly what my body needs to sleep on to feel better. So usually like once a week or so, I'll just like sleep out there, and it like kind of just knocks shit back into place somehow. I don't really understand it. Anyways, yeah, so I retreated to the couch bed, and I was like, this is my life now. And I laid there for probably like, I would say 2 hours or so. And like I was periodically checking. And another thing, you know, when my period starts to come, my anxiety goes up. Pretty much a constant, no matter what physical symptoms I am experiencing, a constant is my anxiety will go up and my OCD will go up. It is an unfortunate constant for me. The physical things always change, but the constant is that my OCD and my anxiety get worse. I was a little like on edge about it. Like, again, that's a really high number to see your heart rate be hitting a couple times a day, right? And on top of it, also just feeling fucking tired and just not feeling like my best. Like even right now, like I am actively on my period right now, and I feel 1,500 times better than I did that day, you know? I was just tired and burnt out, and amongst a bunch of other things. I was like periodically checking. I was also, I will admit, compulsively researching, which definitely did not help. It's a very fine line to walk, like researching things that I need to know for my health conditions and compulsively researching things to ease anxiety. It's a very, very, very fine line that my therapist and I are trying to figure out. I think a lot of it is going to come down to that research is fine if I'm doing it like on my own volition, like when I'm feeling okay. Like I could pick up my phone right now and look some stuff up about like POTS or EDS or OCD or whatever and be fine. But it's just when I'm doing it like in the heat of the moment is probably when it isn't the best for me to do it. So I'm laying there, I'm snacking, I'm vibing, I'm watching some TikTok, you know, I'm just chilling. And like I said, I was occasionally checking my Fitbit, and like it was a little bit more elevated than like what my normal, like I'm just laying here resting heart rate would be, but like not by a lot. Not like so much that it would be concerning. And then after a couple hours, I don't really know what happened. I genuinely don't know what happened in that moment. I got a little warm. Now, to be fair, our house has very poor insulation. So it's either hot or cold. Like there really is a very small window of time in like the spring and late fall where like the house is like a comfortable, don't need a fan on, don't need the heater on, can kind of just walk around the house comfortably. And then top that off with the fact that I am like always cold. So I will admit that at one point during my lay, I was under like a very light blanket, but like nothing that should have like, I'm always under that fucking blanket and I'm always fine. So I get a little warm and I go to adjust to kind of like take the blanket off of me and kind of sit up just a little bit more. And I immediately just like overall sensation of just like super just like kind of sweaty, as gross as it sounds, and just like my heart rate jumped up. In saying all of this out loud, I'm pretty sure I got a little bit warm and then I thought about it a little bit too much and then instantly gave myself a panic attack, and that like sweatiness came from like everything just starting to move and like that adrenaline rush in my body. And then my heart rate jumped up because of that adrenaline rush in my body, right? Like I was still pretty much laying down. Like there's no reason my heart rate should have jumped up in the way that it did, from POTS at least. And I'm saying all of this while acknowledging that there was a rational part of my brain throughout this entire process that was going like, you're having a panic attack. You're having a panic attack, and that's fucking scary, but like, you're fine, right? But also, in the same breath, the panicking side of my brain and a little bit of the rationing side of my brain was just like, you should probably get this checked out though, because why did I hit 160 like beats per minute multiple times today? Is something wrong? And so I tried to ride it out for a little bit. I did like the cold water bottle on the chest thing. I tried really hard to like acknowledge that it was a panic attack and see if I could bring it down. And now, mind you, I was having no other symptoms. Like, I was a little warm, a little sweaty, and my hands were tingling, but I wasn't experiencing any pain. Oh, and you know, my heart rate was rare. But I wasn't experiencing any pain. Like, I didn't have any like shooting pains or any pains really at all, you know, outside of my like normal. But no pains in my chest whatsoever. Like, everything was normal physically, except for what I was experiencing, which was a panic attack. And now, mind you, I hadn't had a panic attack in a long ass time. I think the last panic attack I had was a year ago, right after I had COVID. But before that, it had been like years since I had had a panic attack. I tried to write it out for like 10 minutes, and I'm watching the Fitbit, and I'm watching, like, you know, and I'm feeling what I'm feeling, and like my hands are super tingly, and my Fitbit's reading at like 135, 140, and just holding there. It's just holding right there. I think it dropped down to like 120, but still, that's pretty elevated. I'm at home at this point, Robbie. I've been at home all day. My husband's at work. We work for my parents, thankfully. And I decided to make the call. And I call my husband and I go, I think you need to leave work, and I think you need to take me to the hospital. And I explain it to him, and I'm like, I'm pretty sure I'm having a panic attack, but this is what happened earlier in the day. This is how I felt earlier. I would feel more comfortable if we just went and got this checked out, right? I'm not gonna bore you with the long details of the ER visit, right? Like, we go, I will say that they blew a vein in my arm. I'm not going to show you guys because it's pretty gnarly, but it sucked. But the biggest thing is just like, I've had so many instances in the past where I've gone to urgent cares, ER visits, you know, regular doctor's visits even, and I've said things that could be anxiety, could be something else, right? How many times was I probably actually experiencing something EDS related or something POTS related, and it was actually brushed off as anxiety? More often than not, before I got diagnosed. But even me walking in and saying to all of the nurses, the doctors, everybody that I spoke to at the hospital, me saying, I have POTS. I'm pretty sure I gave myself a panic attack, but, and then I would kind of explain the big jumps and reads and everything like that. At no point was I ever brushed off as like, you need to go to a therapist. You just had a panic attack. It's just a panic attack, this and that. Every single one of them was like, that's possible, but it's a really good thing you came in to get it checked out. You know, like, I genuinely have never felt more like, with like an urgent, you know, outside of my medical team that I work with on a regular basis, I have never felt more like cared about and like taken seriously, and like just all of that. Never in my life have I ever experienced that before. So that was wonderful. But I mean, like, even at triage, you know, when they first take you in and they're like, you know, blood pressure, heart rate reading, you know, vitals, stuff like that. My heart rate was pretty elevated. I will admit that by the time we got to the hospital, a lot of the like physical symptoms of the panic attack, like the shakiness and the like the tingling hands and stuff like that, all of that had gone away. My heart rate was just really high at that point. And it was still elevated when they were doing like vitals and stuff like that. And so Also just want to point out, by the way, that despite going in at like 5:30 on a fucking Friday, by the time I was done checking in with the front desk, they had a triage room for me, and by the time I was done in triage, and they were like, oh, go ahead and sit in the waiting room, they'll call you back soon, they were like, oh, we already have a bed. Like, it was so just like efficient, which is rare. I think I just got really lucky with my timing. At no point during the process did I ever feel like dismissed or gaslit or, you know, anything like that, which was just such a wonderful experience, honestly. Like, I kept thanking them. And basically, like, you know, they did all the standard tests. Obviously, they did blood work. They did, what's going on up here? I had a whole fuzzy in my eye. But they did, you know, blood work and x-rays and EKGs and all the fun stuff, right? All of the delightful things that you experience when you go to a hospital. All the things that they were supposed to do, which again, I've heard stories. I've had personal experiences where, you know, I've gone in and tests that I should have gotten that are like standard procedure for somebody experiencing, like, say for example, one of the times I went to an urgent care because I was having a costochondritis flare, which is like where my chest was in stabbing pain, but you know, your chest gets stabby and your brain immediately goes to, I'm having a fucking heart attack, right? Like, I'm dying. And I've had experiences where, like, you know, I went to an urgent care because of that. And one time a doctor did an EKG, sat me down, showed me the EKG, and explained every little piece and part of the EKG because she knew that that would help me. And it did. It did. Like, it didn't make the pain go away, but it eased my mind. And I've had other times where, you know, I went into that same urgent care. This is all well before diagnosis, by the way. And I was basically like, I walked in and I explained it and I saw the doctor, and the doctor was just like, you need to go to therapy, and just like didn't do any testing. So I've had experiences in the past where, you know, you don't get to experience. Did all the tests, basically, you know, decided like, hey, we just want to give you some fluids and see how you're doing after that, and then we'll go from there. And I was like, cool, perfect, love that. So I get the fluids. Side note, get the IV for the fluids after they've already done the IV or the blood draw. So they had to pick a different spot on the same arm, of course, because where the bed was set up, like they didn't have access to both arms. They only had access to one arm. And where they decided to put the IV was in a place where I was not made aware of the fact that if I bent my arm, like even partially bent it to like look at my phone, I was crimping my vein and not getting, you know, the liquids, not getting the fluids. So it took a while for them to notice that that's what was happening, and then they told me and I was like, oh, and then I just like kept my arm straight, which was really annoying because on this hand I had a pulse ox thing that went all the way down this finger and it kept this finger straight. So I was like trying to hold a phone while like, yeah, it was, and like what else are you supposed to do in the hospital, right? Like stare at the wall. I mean, I did do that for quite a bit, but I was in there for, I want to say 3 hours or so, just hanging out with my husband, chatting with friends on my phone, and, you know, getting fluids. And at the end, they, you know, discharged me and pretty much just told me like, hey, you were probably a little bit dehydrated. That's probably what caused your POTS symptoms to go up. Could be a hormonal factor in there as well. You know, make sure you work on your hydration. You did probably give yourself a panic attack, but like there was clearly something else going on there because my heart rate stayed over one, and my heart rate was still over 100 when I got, why did I want to say discharged. When I got discharged, my heart rate was still over 100, but it was a lot more steady and it was a lot more like calm, and they like had me get up and walk around with a nurse for a little bit, and things were okay by then, and like I felt a lot better, so they were comfortable with discharging me. Like, I mean, let's play a little game right here because I got this thing sitting right next to me. What's my heart rate right now? Oh, it's at 90, 95. Yeah, we're at like 90 right now. So, I mean, being at 100 versus being at 90, it's like not a massive difference, especially for someone like me that experiences it on such a regular basis. Anyway, so they discharged me. That was Friday night, so I didn't actually get to see like any of my lab results or anything like that until Monday, which I wanted to see like my test results because I knew they checked like my like electrolyte levels and stuff like that. I wanted to see what that was. I wanted to, you know, I like to look at my lab results. They interest me. And I always like to read like the chart notes and stuff like that as well, just because it interests me, and I like to be informed about that kind of stuff, because there's always stuff that gets put in the notes that you either are like, you know, you're being handed so much information at once that like it's kind of brushed over, or, you know, whatever. I just like to read the notes. I like to stay informed. So I was reading over the notes, and again, like, the diagnosis itself was palpitations. Like, the diagnosis itself, like what they said was palpitations. Basically, you know, fucking my heart rate was high. Whatever. They acknowledged in the notes that, like, yeah, I probably had a fucking panic attack, but, like, that probably wasn't the only issue going on at the time. But the thing that stuck out to me in the notes, again, was not just that they weren't dismissive because of the anxiety aspect of it, but also the fact that, like, they acknowledged that it was POTS that was causing, like, at the base of the issue was POTS, and they had recommended, because now I do just want to throw out there, I actually went out of network to go to this hospital because the two hospitals that are in network really close to me are god awful. So I chose to go a little bit farther away and go out of network, but also everyone I've spoken to on my care team that is involved with my insurance group all agreed that I made the right decision there. So they specifically said to, like, get with a cardiologist and have the cardiologist look into getting a Holter monitor for me, which basically, a Holter monitor is this thing that they glue onto your chest. Like, I think it's like right about here usually. It's got some little adhesive thingies that it sticks to your chest, and there's a couple different types. This traditional Holter monitor is that one, and then it's like a little fucking weird necklace thing that's like got all the wires connected to it. And that one you like can't get wet at all, and you wear that one for 24 hours. And during that 24 hours, you have a journal, and you're expected to write down basically everything that you do so that they can link it up. Like, you know, my heart rate goes up when I'm in the shower because I'm standing and it's hot in the shower. So my heart rate goes up in the shower. So I would have to write down like 7:15, got in the shower kind of thing, you know. There's the Holter, which is 24 hours, because obviously you can't shower with that one. So it would be kind of fucked up if they were like, you got to wear this for like a week, right? And then there is a newer model out called the Zeo patch, which can be worn for either a week or 2 weeks or up to 30 days. And that one actually can get wet, which is delightful. But it's literally just this, like, I want to say it's probably about this size, and it just kind of like gets stuck on, and then you just wear it, and you don't have to keep a journal. And they just kind of look at the results when it's all said and done to see, like, was there any weird... I wasn't paying attention to the fact that the footage was about to cut off, so I don't know where I got cut off. But yeah, Zeo patch, worn for up to 30 days, but it's usually a week or 2 weeks. And they just kind of track what's going on and see if there's any, like, weird instances. And if there are weird instances, then I'm sure they probably ask you, like, do you remember what you did at about this time and stuff like that? Like, I'd probably still keep some vague notes just in case they ask. I was interested in that, right? And so I was already kind of contemplating, like, reaching out to my doctor, but also I'm kind of a piece of shit because she ordered blood work for me in March and I still haven't gotten it fucking done. And this would have been the perfect week for me to go get it done, but I have blown veins, so it was something that I was kind of like toying with the idea of probably reaching out to her at some point soon and just being like, hey, so this happened, what do you think about this, you know? So fast forward to this Wednesday that just happened. Well, it just happened for me. So just under a week after, you know, the whole had to go to the ER situation. And I am still at this point under the belief that, you know, at twice during one day, my heart rate jumped up to 160, and then at one point it just like held fucking steady between 1:30 and 1:45 for a hot ass minute. That was my understanding, right? And again, we all know that the 1:30 to 1:45 stayed is because I was by myself having a fucking panic attack, concerned that I was dying. You know, like, okay, whatever. This past Wednesday, I am off. I'm off work. Delightful. Wonderful. I'd actually secured myself a spare day off this week because I clearly did not get anything fucking done on Friday, and I had stuff that I needed to do, so I had an extra day off this week. I am sitting down to film, and I think I'm actually already filming at this point. I'm pretty sure I was already filming at this point. Whatever. I'm pretty sure that I was already filming because I almost talked about it in that video, and then I was like, no, I'll save it for the shot my stash because it's more relevant in that video than it was in whatever video I filmed the other day. The brain fog's real. I do things and then pretty much immediately forget about them, hence why I didn't even really second guess the possibility that maybe I experienced 160 and just like didn't notice or didn't remember that I noticed. I'm sitting right here, like literally sitting right here, and my vanity is right. Well, there you go. There's the blown vein. My vanity is right over there. And I reached over there to grab something for some reason. And I like literally just kind of climbed over the couch and just like grabbed it off my vanity and just came back. And again, I'm feeling great. Like I am feeling fantastic, honestly. Like physically feeling good, mentally feeling good, like energy levels are great, like I feel good. Like first time in a long time I could like genuinely say like I felt good. I am sitting there and I had my Fitbit on because I was kind of being a little bit more conscious about wearing it consistently because I was trying to keep track. And there was that little itch in the back of my brain that was just like, this is the first day that you're gonna be home alone again. Since that happened, like, I would like to keep a little bit more of a focus on it, you know, like pay attention a little bit. So I'm sitting here and again, feeling great. I look down at my Fitbit, not to check my heart rate at all, not to check my heart rate, literally to look at the fucking time. I just wanted to know what time it was. And I look down at it, and my Fitbit has the little heart symbol, you know, next to where it reads your heart rate, and it says 180. And I was like, excuse the fuck out of you. So I sit there for a minute, and I'm like, I don't feel 180. I know the threshold at which I start to really feel it and be like, ooh, I need to chill the fuck out. And that's usually about 115, 120. If I'm feeling like I need to have a sit at 120, I'm pretty sure I would fucking black out at 180. And also in my head, I'm thinking, I'm just sitting here. I'm not even standing. I'm not doing anything. I'm sitting. Like, sure, I was talking in the video, but like I literally just now put this pulse ox on my finger and my heart rate was 84. I'll do it again for funsies right now. But like I was just sitting. I wasn't doing anything. Like there was no reason why I should be, oh, you're at 100 now. Okay, regardless, we'll keep this on for a second. There was no reason why my heart rate should have been at 180. And again, I wasn't feeling that. And so in my head, I said, I bought this pulse oximeter. As you can see, it says 100. I bought this pulse oximeter when we had COVID last year, because you know, gotta keep track of the blood oxygen levels. I'm like, let me go grab that. And also in the back of my head, I'm thinking, if my heart rate's truly at 180, when I stand up, I'm going to notice it. So I get up and I go grab it. And I'm walking around like fucking everything's fine. I'm looking down at it, it's like 180. I grab the pulse ox, I put it on. It's at 120. And I'm like, okay, one of you is fucking wrong. And so I stand there for a second, pulse ox on one hand, Fitbit on the wrist, and I'm looking at both of them, right? And I'm just standing at my dresser. The Fitbit goes down to like 175. And the pulse ox is like starting to go back down because reality is starting to set in as to what's happening here. And the pulse ox goes down to like 105, 110, 105, something like that. And I'm like, okay, let me lay down for a second. let me lay down for a minute. So I take the Fitbit off and I put it on my dresser and I keep the pulse ox with me and I lay down for a minute, like maybe 5 minutes. And I put the pulse ox back on, I put it on, my heart rate's at 88. Cool, calm, and collected, 88. That's so normal for me. That's like a, you know, just whatever, that's normal. I grab the Fitbit, I like kind of wipe down the sensor thinking, oh, maybe there was like something on the sensor. Because it, again, reality is starting to set in where I'm going, this thing's just giving me false readings. Like the Fitbit was giving me false readings. And because I'm like, there's no way that I was at 180 at any point during this, right? And so I clean it off and I put it back on. And I give it a second. And I put the pulse ox back on my finger. And pulse ox says, I think because I had come back in here now, I think the pulse ox was at like 100. The Fitbit still says 175. And I'm like, there ain't no fucking way. Like, not a fucking chance in hell, right? So I do some quick Googling and I find out that apparently this is like an issue, like just like a known issue. And so I'm like, okay, so the Fitbit gave me a false reading today. And then it dawns on me that the reason why I didn't feel those 160 reads last Friday was because they didn't happen. I never experienced them because my heart rate never hit that. I said, fuck the Fitbit. Because I don't have Fitbit bugs out and tells me I have a really high heart rate. And so I go to the ER money, you know? Like I don't have that kind of money. I don't regret going and getting it checked out because again, my heart rate was still quite elevated when we got there. There's a good chance that I was probably a little bit more elevated than I should have been. I'm always a little bit more elevated than I should be. I'm fucking chronically ill. Like, it's always good to get that stuff checked out. You know, there was no harm in that aside to, like, you know, my bank account. But it dawned on me that, like, I was just getting a fucking bad read that entire time. So no wonder I fucking panicked. So now I'm gonna try to return the Fitbit, even though I'm well out of my return window. Because, like, it's clearly broken. Like, it shouldn't be telling me that I'm having these fucking reads when I'm not. And I will admit, I was getting a little bit compulsive with it and, like, checking it even well before all of that happened. So it's probably in my best interest to not. And to just, like, have the pulse ox, and, like, I'm not going to take the pulse ox with me to work, but, like, just to have it in case there's, like, a situation in which I'm like, ooh, like, am I good? And I can just quickly double check it. That's probably good enough. Okay, I need to not be sitting on my feet for a second, so I'm going to go do my eyeliner. I'm going to go finish up my eyes. I'll be right back. I'll just do my lashes with you guys on camera. So, after, you know, I realized that my Fitbit had wronged me, and cost me hundreds, if not thousands of dollars. I finished filming that video because, you know, priorities, obviously. And then I reached out to my doctor's office. Honestly, just wanted a, like, phone appointment to just be like, hey, like, here's what happened. They suggested a Holter, like, where do you stand on this? What's the vibe? What's the tea? What you feeling? And when I called, they were like, unfortunately, she doesn't have any phone appointments available, but she did have a, like, 10:30 appointment the very next day. And, like, genuinely, in a post-COVID world, how often can you call your doctor's office and be told to come in the next day? I was like, fuck it, I'll come in. Fully knowing that, like, a phone appointment doesn't cost me anything. Because they still have a lot of those, like, COVID rules in place where you could call or, like, video chat with your doctor and it be free, whereas in-person appointment costs money. But obviously there's also more resources involved in an in-person appointment. But my point being, how often do you call and be told, like, hey, come in tomorrow, no problem? So I took the appointment. And I went in and I explained everything and I was like, look, like, this is what happened. This is why I went to the ER. This is what the ER said. I like gave her, honestly, I brought my iPad with me and I had it logged in because like I said, I went out of network. So I had to log into their charting system and I gave her everything and was just like, she read over all of it. And we were talking about it. And then I explained to her what had happened on Wednesday, the day before, with the false reading and like, you know, all of that. And by the way, I do just want to point out that like at no point am I disillusioned enough to believe that this little pulse oximeter that I got from Amazon is 100% accurate. I don't think so. It was the disparity between the two that really kind of threw me off, to be honest with you. And I'm also not saying that the Fitbit was inaccurate 100% of the time. But what I am saying is that having an inaccuracy that big that it can cause problems, yeah, no, that's not chill. We were chatting. I explained the whole thing. I talked to her about the false readings and all of that stuff. And I was just basically like, we talked about the Holter monitor. And instantly she was just like, no, absolutely. She was like, I was going to suggest a Holter because she was like, if you actually did have those 160 readings and you just don't remember or whatever, like, we need to know about that. She goes, there's a good chance that it was a false reading. She goes, but there's also a chance that it wasn't. And it's good to find out. And she goes, I don't want you to do a Holter because I don't think 24 hours is enough. And so she was like, I want to recommend for you to get a Zeo patch for 2 weeks to stick it to the chest and basically just go from there. And we'll, you know, keep track of everything. We'll keep an eye, see what's going on, and then we'll have a better picture. Because the other thing that I explained to her is something that I've experienced for consciously, I've been experiencing it for probably, I don't know, 10 years or so, which in hindsight, it's definitely like a POTS thing. But it was one of the very first things that I brought up to an old doctor, and it was just kind of brushed off as just like, oh, it's anxiety, oh, it's palpitations, oh, whatever. And as I said to her, I was like, look, I've been dealing with it for 10 years and it hasn't killed me yet, so it can't be that dangerous. And she was just like, look, like if it's something, like it can compound and cause problems. And I was like, valid point. But say for example, I'm at home and I'm fluttering around the house, cleaning or doing whatever, and then I sit down, I will kind of feel my heart just kind of like thud back into the regular slow rhythm. Like my heart's just kind of like, okay, we can chill now. But I can feel it as it kind of slows back down, right? And she was like, that's weird. And I was like, yeah, it's not the comfiest. I'm very much used to it at this point. Like, it's kind of just like, oh, that's my POTS coming back down. Like, oh, that's my autonomic nervous system kicking in kind of thing. Like, it's not fun to feel, but I'm used to it at this point. It was a really nice lipstick. So yeah, that's where I'm at. She put in, for the cardiology team to basically contact me. Of course, I'm doing this all right before a holiday weekend, so, or I guess it's technically actually like a midweek holiday, isn't it? So unless by like the grace of the medical gods I happen to hear back from them on Monday, I probably won't hear back from them until like the end of next week. But yeah, and then they basically just like mail me this little thing and I like stick it to my chest. So there's a good chance that in some upcoming videos you're gonna see me with this thing glued to my chest. I'll probably talk about it when it happens, but like, so that's my super duper fun story about how a Fitbit cost me like hundreds if not thousands of dollars and a panic attack. How a Fitbit sent me to the ER. One thing I do want to point out, just a little mental health update, a little mentee healthy situation. The craziest thing is that I can tell that my OCD is getting so much better because the entire time that I was in the hospital, and the entire time that I was at the doctor's office yesterday, like, I could hear people, like, coughing at the doctor's office, and I could hear, like, obviously you're at the ER, so there's definitely some pukey people there, and, like, at no point was I was just like, oh, I'm gonna get sick. Like, it was just, I was fine. So that's cool. OCD has been chill. Again, I think that the anxiety that I experienced was partially self-inflicted, partially understandable because like that's a big number to see, and like of course I'm gonna freak out a little bit about it, but also like definitely a little bit hormonal based. But that's gonna wrap up my little story and wrap up my shop my stash. I love the way this makeup look turned out. It's not like overly, oh, my lash isn't glued on all the way though. Okay. It's not like overly over the top when it comes to, excuse the fuck out of you. It's not over the top makeup look, but I didn't really feel like doing over the top makeup today. But yeah, like I said at the beginning of this video, any makeup that I used in today's video will be linked and listed down below for you guys. I can feel my lashes starting to try to stick together. Oh, that's gonna be all day, isn't it? It's only this specific pair of lashes and it's only this specific eye that for some reason it's just having a really hard time sticking on that inner corner and it's driving me fucking insane. But I'm like running out of lashes, so I don't want to just like get rid of them. But yeah, I'm gonna wrap up today's video. It's been a long one. Thanks for hanging out. Thanks for letting me just like scream into the void a little bit. I hope that today's video was interesting. If you wear a Fitbit, keep an eye on it for bugginess, or just keep something else on hand to like double check if you feel like you're getting some weird readings. Definitely saw quite a few like articles talking about there's some aspects of the Fitbit that are incredibly inaccurate. This lash is not gonna stay on like at all. Fuck it, I'm gonna re-glue the whole thing on before I feel like maybe I just like didn't trim it enough, but like also that doesn't make sense because this eye is fine. I don't get it. Now my camera's gonna die soon, so I really need to hurry up. So I'm just gonna finish this video with one eyelash on, I guess, before I have to do my thumbnail. So comment down below and tell me how you've been. I would love to know. Please subscribe if you have not already. It would mean the world to me. Like this video, ring the bell, do all the things. I hope that you guys have an awesome day, and I'll see you guys in my next one. Bye! There we go. That's so much better.